Brian Williams.
Good evening. Every American generation has its icons in the world of entertainment. Michael Jackson has been one of the best-known stars on this planet for the last several decades. On this night, when we were preparing a remembrance of Farrah Fawcett, suddenly word arrived from Southern California that Jackson had been rushed to the hospital. There were grave reports about his condition. And now this, confirmation tonight that he has died. A lot will be said about Michael Jackson as we learn more about this story. He was incredibly talented, a child star who was an adult with deep troubles and physical and mental health issues. We'll begin our coverage of this still breaking story with Lester Holt here with me in our New York studios. Again, Lester, this came first confirmation, LA Times, then Associated Press, and now NBC News is confirming this word.
And they've been reporting all afternoon about the sequence of events. Apparently about 12:30, Brian, Pacific time, 3:36 Eastern time. The LA City Fire Department paramedics responded to the Bel Air mansion where Michael Jackson had been staying. He'd been rehearsing for a series of concerts set to begin, comeback concerts in London in July. The paramedics got to the residence, found him. Apparently there was no pulse. He was not breathing. They administered CPR at the scene, then took him about 6 minutes away to what you're looking at now. This is the UCLA Medical Center in nearby Westwood. Some family had begun to gather there. The press, of course, gathered, and then we learned just a short time ago in these latest reports that Michael Jackson did die. Apparently, he never regained consciousness. They were not able to reestablish a pulse. This mansion he was staying at in Bel Air apparently had been rented in preparation for this comeback concert. We learned in March when they announced that concert that questions had come up about his health at the time. The promoters said he had undergone a 4.5-hour battery of physical tests and he had checked out.
There you go, confirmation. The king of pop is dead. Michael Jackson dead at the age of 50. We are seeing live shots from LA as the news sinks in right across the country, right across the world. NBC's nightly news program there bringing you those. We are going to go to Kevin Jacobson now, the concert promoter, the Australian concert promoter who brought him out to Australia in the 80s. Kevin, you knew him?
Yes, I did. I knew him reasonably well.
Yes, and tell us, what was it like? What was he like at the height of his career?
The biggest tour he did here was a bad tour on that particular album. You know, Michael Jackson, we know, was a music phenomenon and one of the great performers of all times, possibly the greatest in so far as a music performer is concerned, very innovative. We had our little incidences, which was mostly humorous, but had breakfast with him a few times, and was a rather simple sort of a character, and sort of lived for his music and his craft. I mean, mostly he spoke about shows and how they were going and whether I was happy and the possibility of rain, etc., and so on. So it was quite. I had quite a nice association with him. Also, was participating in the rock production, which was a huge outdoor football stadium, and there, in fact, that Oliver called me and said, what about the problems with Michael Jackson? We've got no problems. It's all sold out. He said, no. He's been arrested.
Oh, my gosh.
So,
Kevin, sorry, Kevin, I'm just going to jump in.
It's when we played Sydney, we couldn't get into football stadium or the cricket ground because there was a ban on rock shows at times, so we played Parramatta Stadium. It had just been opened by John Brown, and about 3 weeks later he demolished the hill where we built the stage, and we removed the hill to some other park, played the show, took the stage out after the shows, I should say, replaced the hill with the grass, and I don't know whether it's still there to this day, but so, you know, it was, we've had quite wonderful experiences with him, actually, and his people. He always had quite nice people surrounding him.
Well, that's good to know, because we obviously, you know, he's almost a bit of a misunderstood character, I guess, Kevin. He's sort of had an amazing life and highs and lows. So I guess one of our questions would be what sort of a bloke he was. Was he a good man? Was he a nice man?
Oh, well, I thought he was a nice man. I mean, he was very respectful and well-mannered. I mean, and he wasn't a guy, for the want of a better expression,
I think we might have just lost Kevin there. Sorry, it was obviously a bit of a dodgy line the whole way along there. Kevin Jacobson, concert promoter who brought Michael Jackson out to Australia back in 1987 with his Bad tour.
Interestingly, he also came to the Perth Telethon. Robert Holmescourt brought him out to the Perth Telethon because I think they were competing for the rights for the Beatles songs and stuff. So that was back in the 90s. So. You know, and the irony that he was married to Lisa Marie Presley as well. Yes. You know, that's the two greatest sort of, you know, musical names, I guess.
1994.
Yep, extraordinary.
And then I, as a journalist, covered his marriage to Debbie Rowe because, of course, he married his second wife here in Australia. It was back in '96, and I'd just started with Seven, and it was one of those things. I mean, everything Michael Jackson ever did made major news headlines around the world, and that was one. He came over here. He was staying at the hotel just up near Hyde Park, and all of a sudden word came through that he'd got married, and it was sort of, I think that one took everyone by surprise too. So. Obviously, everything he's ever done in his life has created headlines.
Yeah, it sure has, and that's how we sort of remember him more, I think. I mean, as Glenn A. Baker was saying, those massive hits, those amazingly worldwide successful videos, they're the parts of Michael Jackson that you think, well, he was brilliant in his day. But the last sort of 15, 20 years sort of went downhill, didn't it?
He was a mixed-up fella, but I mean, you think of, you know, Elvis, Michael Jackson, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, it's probably, you know, they're in your top 5.
Yeah, they're the biggest and the best, certainly, you know, and we grew up with Michael Jackson all the way through from his time in the Jackson 5, you know. He even had his own cartoon series, remarkable, and then all of these hits, and you try and pick out in your mind and get your head around which was his greatest one. Boy, they were all great.
Yeah, well, they were, and he just had so many successful hits. So,
he certainly did. Well, confirmation has come through that Michael Jackson is dead at the age of 50. We'll check in with Nelson Aspen in Hollywood straight after the break on Sunrise. We're going to chat now. We've got to go